Good evening. My name is Madison Davis, President and CEO of Brisbane's Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to welcome you to our annual State of the City event. Tonight, we are excited to hear from Mayor Coleen Mackin, who will share with us an update on how the city is faring. I'd like to thank the City of Brisbane for partnering with us to host this event for another year. In addition, I'd like us to give a big round of applause to South San Francisco Scavenger Company, who is our sponsor this evening. After the presentation, I will invite Mayor Mackin, representatives from the city, and the team at South San Francisco Scavenger to join me at the podium so I can present you with certificates of appreciation. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce some VIPs in the audience. Here from the Brisbane City Council, we have Karen Cunningham and Terry O'Connell, who are joining us remotely via Zoom. We have Bo Unga from Supervisor Canepa's office, and also Saul Miranda from the office of State Senator Josh Becker. And with us today, we do have a number of board members from the Brisbane Chamber of Commerce, including Secretary Teresa Montgomery, Chamber Treasurer Tamara Palmer-Heath, and board members Rich Borgello, Andy Lopez, and Christian Cabrera. All of us at the Chamber support the work that the City Council and staff do each and every day to serve our community. With that, I would like to turn over the microphone to our Mayor, Honorable Coleen Mackin, who will start the presentation.
Thank you, Madison. And thank you for coming today or tuning in if you're watching from home. So after 2 solid years of the pandemic, isn't it refreshing to see some routines returning? So a recent poll caught my interest because it identified issues we're facing with our regional economy and society. 5 Bay Area counties were polled, including San Mateo County. What did they learn? We're grumpy. Not only is our mood darkening, but 64% say the region is going in the wrong direction. 3 out of 4 residents say the quality of life in the Bay Area declined in the past 5 years. The reasons? You name it. Traffic congestion, climate issues like drought and wildfires, and 8 out of 10 cited racism as a serious problem. Cost of housing loomed large. Home ownership feels out of reach for most renters, and the cost of health care is too high. Only a third rated the local economy highly, despite more than half reporting their personal finances have actually improved. The pessimism went across all ages, genders, races, ethnicities, and party lines. Why all the gloom and discontent? Change. Change is hard. And we've had an onslaught the past couple years. How about Brisbane specifically? Let's talk about the negative apprehensions of 2022. We started the year mired in a pandemic. Early rains brought hope for a wet year, but instead the drought continued. We watched the eastern half of the country cope with flooding. It fostered a bit of anxiety pondering our own future with sea level rise. The steady drumbeat continued about housing shortages in our state, with Brisbane truly wanting more affordable housing, always worrying about just how much of an increase in population could spoil the magic of our small town. And then mid-year, the High-Speed Rail Authority affirmed that they were indeed coming to Brisbane with a light maintenance facility and putting it on the Baylands. Adding to the uneasiness, their plans include moving our corporate yard somewhere, tearing down our fire station and moving it somewhere, tearing down our bridge and moving it somewhere, and moving our entrance to town somewhere. Plenty to be anxious about that chapter and much to be resolved. Money keeps a city running, so let's start there. Finances. Sales tax revenues are down from the previous year, and the transit occupancy tax from hotels hasn't returned to pre-pandemic levels. To generate revenues and maintain city services, the council voted to put 2 measures on this fall's ballot. Measure O is a business tax on those who provide lodging accommodations, such as hotels. Revenues are projected to be $250,000 annually. Measure U raises our sales tax and could provide $2 million a year in revenue. Though election results are not yet final, it appears both measures will pass when certified in early December. I'd like to introduce our Finance Director, Carolina Yuen, who will provide you with more details about our finances. Carolina?
Thank you, Mayor Mackin. And thank you for being here, and thank you for those who are watching us remotely. So we're going to go ahead and start with just a brief overall review of our financial results. Next slide, please. Full disclosure, we're still closing the books for our annual audit, but we're not expecting any major changes of what we're presenting tonight. We're going to be discussing just the general fund's preliminary numbers. The period we're reviewing is the fiscal year covering July 1st through June 30, 2022. Just a reminder, the original budget was a 2-year budget approved in June 2020 before understanding the full extent of COVID. Therefore, we're using the comparison of the recent adjusted budget, which was projected in May 2022. So our general fund revenue came in higher than our adjusted budget by $2.4 million for a total of $24 million. And our general fund expenses came in higher than our adjusted budget by $1.7 million for a total of $25. With expenses higher than our revenues, we're expecting a difference slightly over $1 million. But we already had planned for that. For a difference, so we knew we were going to have to use our fund balance. This is not a surprise. As we're all experiencing in our personal lives, even when finding ways to minimize costs, the overall increases to our program costs were unavoidable. Next slide. We're going to take a deeper dive into the revenue and the 2.4 million variance. So the left side shows the revenue streams that are ongoing and have steady growth above our adjusted budget, and they are being used for general purposes. However, on the right side, where you see a bigger increase, includes one-time increases such as planning and building fees from Sierra Point, and those are targeted for related expenses with sometimes crossover years. Next slide, we're going to look at sales tax revenue, which is one of our major revenue streams. So although our sales tax revenue came in higher than projected, you see that it was a significant drop from last year, which had a one-time spike for COVID. But even though it's higher this year than we projected, we still haven't caught up to the trajectory of the increases enjoyed pre-pandemic. So pre-COVID, we were growing at about $300,000 to $500,000 a year in sales taxes. So we should have been to at least 6.5 million at this point, but we've landed at 5.2 as of June 30. So COVID, coupled with the recent loss of 2 large sales tax providers, is limiting our growth. This is one reason why the city added the transactional tax initiative to the ballot in the recent election. It works slightly different from a sales tax, so we can't assume a direct proportionate increase, but it's an opportunity to increase revenue without the full burden on our residents. The next slide is another look into one of our revenue streams, which is TOT, or the Transient Occupancy Tax. Pre-pandemic, we were enjoying almost $3 million annually from transient guests at our 2 hotels. As you can see, the significant drop-off during COVID, quite the drop there. We're still trying to catch up, and we're finally reaching at least 50% of what we've budgeted from that, or at least what we were enjoying at the $3 million. We're expecting rebounds probably over the next 2 to 3 years is what we're expecting it might take. But we saw how sensitive that revenue stream is to local economic conditions. Therefore, the city added the hotel business license tax to the ballot in the recent election to help supplant our hotel-related revenues. And finally, next slide. The mayor is going to go into more detailed good news to come, but we wanted to remind you, the public, that the city, led by City Council, has placed responsible policies in place to maintain strong reserves and to continue to tackle the tough times adhering to our commitments and without reducing our programs or service levels. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Carolina. Let's talk about the positive. It's time for the positive. Change is hard to cope with because we often feel out of control. But it's important to recognize that many positive changes did occur this year. As we moved through 2022, some things returned to normal. Citywide garage sale, concerts in the park, community festival, the Derby, and our upcoming Festival of Lights. Community. Lots of new appointments were made to our committees and commissions, and this year we formed the IDEA Committee to address inclusion, diversity, equity, and accountability. Residents are our strength, and we're redoubling our commitment to make Brisbane a safe place where everyone can thrive. Environment. Brisbane has always taken the lead on environmental issues, starting with our climate action plan and standards for building efficiency. 2021, the city issued a declaration of climate emergency, illustrating our commitment to address climate change. Aspirations are to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 66% by 2030 and reach carbon neutrality by 2040. To achieve these goals and encourage electrification of our residential and commercial buildings, we've been early adopters of REACH codes. These are amendments we make to the California building codes addressing local fire hazards, building electrification, energy efficiency, greenhouse gas emissions, on-site energy generation, and electrical vehicle charging infrastructure. REACH codes are updated regularly, and the council will consider new ones at the November 17 council meeting tomorrow night. 2022 marked the second year of our Brisbane Building Efficiency Program. That's for buildings 10,000 square feet or more. Making buildings more energy and water efficient saves owners money and reduces emissions that lead to climate change. The City of Brisbane and 97% of our residents continue to source clean electric power through Peninsula Clean Energy. PCE coincidentally chose Brisbane for a solar with battery storage project at our Mission Blue Center, and that project will be proceeding soon. Always embracing innovation. We paved Sierra Point Parkway this year with an aggregate made from recycled tires. Aside from keeping them out of a landfill, this material is both cost-effective and reduces maintenance. Brisbane has always been one of the leading water conservation cities, and we continued that this year. Electric heat pump water heaters are known to be more efficient than gas ones, so we authorized installation of 2 of them to replace a failing gas model at the community pool. Later in the year, we installed one at City Hall as well. Because car and truck emissions are a major contributor to greenhouse gas, we continue towards electrification of our fleet of city vehicles. Brisbane has always revered the properties on the mountain, referred to as the acres. Periodically, we've been able to acquire undeveloped lots through a combination of purchases, grants, and donations, and preserve them as open space. Recently, the council approved expanding the priority preservation area to include 6 additional lots for potential acquisition. And habitat restoration on the mountain with native plants is still ongoing thanks to Brisbane volunteers and the guidance of Mountain Watch. We're truly fortunate the spirit of volunteering continues to this day in Brisbane. New topic, safety. The council approved a contract for ALPRs, automated license plate readers. The system uses cameras to capture license plates through character recognition. This new technology, after widespread use in Bay Area cities, proved it can reduce the time for police to solve crimes and apprehend perpetrators. Noting complaints of ever-increasing excessive speed on Bayshore, we accepted an offer from UC Berkeley to do a traffic calming study at no charge to the city and anticipate results very soon. And while wildfire is always a threat to our community, we're fortunate to have continued support from North County Fire. Their concerted efforts and understanding of the inherent dangers of our terrain kept small fires from turning into disasters. Infrastructure. We completed a water and sewer rate study, enabling us to plan ahead for funding necessary capital projects. Our goal is to stabilize rates as much as possible in the future. This year, the council approved the second of 4 planned capital facilities fees that will fund water and sewer pipe replacements, the Glen Park pump stage upgrade, and an advanced water metering system that will give customers more real-time information about water use. City staff and council subcommittees have also been investigating the feasibility of water repurposing from our wastewater, though much work still remains to investigate costs to build and operate such a facility. Housing. We completed and approved our Residential Objective Design Standards, also known as the ODDS project. This was mandated by the state. The standards provide clear, non-subjective guidelines for new residential buildings in Brisbane, and the community provided crucial input at meetings and through an online survey. Recognizing the need for affordable housing, we commissioned an affordable housing strategic plan due for completion in 2023. We've also noted the need for additional senior housing, and none has been built since 1999. Our existing senior housing always has a long wait list. To boost our affordable housing fund, we're considering linkage fees to commercial development, along with strategies to maximize affordable housing in the Baylands. Place. Place is important. The mural on the side of Midtown Market was painted in 2002 by renowned artist Mona Caron. This year, the mural was restored with money from our public art fund. Long-awaited modernization projects were completed at Lippman Middle School, while similar infrastructure repairs and classroom upgrades have begun at Brisbane Elementary. Brisbane Elementary was also the beneficiary of new playground equipment due to the generosity of nonprofit Kaboom with assembly by employees from biotech AbbVie. A contract was awarded to the renowned firm CMG Landscape Architects to work with our city committees on a master planning of Sierra Point open space and parks. The park will be a centerpiece against the beautiful marina backdrop. We purchased the former Bank of America lot, recognizing its strategic importance to our city. This property has the potential to play a key role in revitalizing our retail sector and could provide housing. The community will be engaged to decide the best use for this property going forward. Our city staff moved into the present City Hall in 1995, and it was remodeled in 2008. Now, inadequate for the current number of staff. We signed a lease for additional space right across the street at 25 Park Place. North County Fire Authority will also have offices in the space. The city's Complete Streets Committee was enlisted to study ongoing parking issues. Early next year, the committee will provide recommendations to the council based on observations and research into how other cities resolved similar problems. And always a focal point when speaking of place in Brisbane, approval was given for a grove of 3 Douglas fir trees that will replace our former holiday tree. Government. Implementation of our short-term rental ordinance moved forward with both enforcement and issuance of 2 permits. All short-term rentals are required to charge and pay the transit occupancy tax. A long-awaited grading ordinance was finally approved after extensive study and meetings. The city has undertaken an organization-wide technology project to assess our computer infrastructure and streamline operations. The goal is to provide the public with greater access to information and the means to conduct business with the city online. Our business community. We completed distribution of federal relief funds to support 34 Brisbane small businesses who suffered losses due to the pandemic. Brisbane's being touted as the epicenter of innovation. We are proud to have 2 companies working on transformational projects right in our midst. One is Heirloom, working on carbon sequestration solutions, and the other is Ample, who's pioneered battery technology to enable easy swapping out of batteries in electric vehicles. 2022 has also been a notable year in the build-out at Sierra Point. As 3000 Marina rises near the northwest shoreline, a cluster of buildings called The Shore reached completion at the southeast corner. Some of the biotechs in our Sierra Point community now include Sangamo, Johnson & Johnson, Bristol Myers Squibb, Arcus Biosciences, Graphite Bio, and Nexon Biosciences, Interline Therapeutics, and soon Freenome. Development. Several development applications have been moving through plan review by city staff this year. They include the Baylands to the north and the quarry adjacent to Crocker Park. How the Baylands get sorted out with high-speed rail is still a mystery. Pending litigation will most likely determine the outcome. At Sierra Point, Health Peak would like to add 2 additional life sciences buildings. And on the last vacant parcel owned by Universal Paragon, they would like to develop a life science building and a hotel. All of these projects require extensive environmental review of impacts, which makes it understandable why this thorough process takes a significant amount of time. And finally, balance. Brisbane has been maligned as a place that soundly rejects all change, but that's really not true. As they say, change is inevitable. And this truly is a time that will define us like never before. Our choice is whether we proactively engage and shape that change or become bystanders, because broader societal, economic, and environmental factors will drive change with or without our input. For Brisbane, it's all about finding balance. We treasure our community and fight to preserve its character. In fact, new residents have shown they embrace our culture, so we don't need to fear losing our identity. Businesses are enthusiastic about locating here because they want to be part of our dynamic and growing business community. They are creators, researchers, innovators who want to change the world, but are not trying to change Brisbane. Seldom is there a time where fate hands you a blank slate, and yet that's what we have right now in our hands. It's our turn. We need to increase our revenues. Can we find ways to maximize retail expansion? We need that change. We can do that without compromising our character. Change well planned doesn't have to jeopardize our core community values. It can be gratifying and rewarding when done right. Whether you're a resident or someone who works here, this is an exciting time to be in Brisbane. Thank you, Brisbane Chamber of Commerce and South San Francisco Scavenger, for your kind sponsorship of this event, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, Mayor Mackin. At this time, I'd like to honor a few people with certificates of appreciation. So I'll start with Mayor Coleen Mackin. If you could, sorry, I just said, if you could join me for a certificate of appreciation. If someone from the chamber has a phone they want to whip out for a picture, I would greatly appreciate that. Here, let's come over this way. Thank you, Andy. That is one of the best state of the city speeches I think I've ever had the pleasure of witnessing. You did such a good job.
Very kind.
You did such a good job. Oh, I loved it. Thank you so much. We are very lucky to have you as our mayor this year. Next, I'd like to invite up South San Francisco Scavenger Company, who is our sponsor this year, and anyone from the team who'd like to join us for a photo. Sorry, Andy, I'm going to have you keep getting up. South San Francisco Scavenger has sponsored this event for a number of years, and we are so appreciative of the support. And without it, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you so much. Thank you. And lastly, if there's any members of council or city staff who would like to join me, so I can provide a certificate to the city of Brisbane for hosting us this evening in the council chambers. I'm looking at you, so yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stick around for refreshments in the lobby afterwards, and you're more than welcome to take any snacks home with you if you'd like. So thank you.